So yeah, I want to talk about this because a lot of people are getting upset that Elon Musk is meeting with the Iranian ambassador over, like I guess whatever's going on in the region. People are upset about this or concerned about this. My understanding is that Elon Musk has always been fairly anti-war, doesn't want to get in fights with anybody, doesn't want to escalate the conflict. It's a lot better than having somebody like John Bolton or Mad Dog Mattis or any of these other generals and people that we've had over time, all these war hawks and warmongers. I don't see why it's a bad thing that Elon Musk is meeting with them. It's not like he's going to be like, hey, by the way, these are the nuclear missile codes. Like what do you think that he's going to do or say that's going to endanger American security or America's interest with Iran? I don't know. Let's see.
The New York Times reports that on Monday, Elon Musk met with Iran's ambassador to the United Nations. They reportedly discussed ways to diffuse tensions between Iran and America.
Good.
Retired four-star General Jack Keane joins me now. General, Musk talks with the Iranians. Musk gets on the phone with Ukraine's Zelensky. Do you approve of Musk getting involved in foreign relations like this?
If it's to de-escalate tensions, yes. Why not? Send anyone that is willing to go. And you know what? They're probably more interested in talking with somebody like Elon because he's the richest man in the world. He owns rocket companies. He's a uniquely positioned person to be able to talk to people around the world because he's kind of a man of the world a little bit. He's America first with Trump and all that kind of stuff. But, he's kind of, he's well-traveled, let's say.
Well, obviously, he's not an official of the United States government, but he is an advisor to the president-elect. I think what's actually happening here, Stuart, is, first of all, the president-elect is not going to reach out as the president-elect while there's a serving president himself to make connections.
Interesting.
Given the fact that he doesn't take office until sometime in January. So I think he's using a close advisor of his, someone who he trusts, to do a little bit of that, to set the stage for him. And I'm not overreacting to the fact that Musk may be talking to about negotiations in the future. I am very confident about the direction that President Trump, when he takes office, is going to go in. He knows Iran has operationalized all the proxies, and their intent is to drive.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, is that, he could be doing that ahead just to kind of lay out the groundwork. But I don't see the issue because I saw there was a lot of people having issue with this. I mean, we'll just go to everybody's favorite website and go find out. Iran says no meeting took place between UN ambassador and Elon Musk, as Financial Times reports that Trump's administration is set to ramp up aggressions against Iran as soon as Trump takes office. Trump supporters have been citing the Musk story as evidence that Trump plans to make peace with Iran, and you can expect them to either ignore the Financial Times story or spin it as some 87 chess move. Okay, I'm not going to do that. Let's see what it says. Iran categorically denies UN envoy met Elon Musk. Okay. Donald Trump's new administration will revive its maximum pressure policy to bankrupt Iran's ability to fund regional proxies and develop nuclear weapons. Trump's foreign policy team will seek to ratchet up tensions on Tehran, including vital oil exports. Yeah, hopefully they don't do that. That's the thing. It's I want him to do the right thing. I'm not necessarily. Here's Trump saying that there will be no regime change in Iran because we can't take care of ourselves. Hey, okay. See,
I didn't want much.
See, there's what the Financial Times says, and then there's what Donald Trump himself says. So let's see.
Strategy back with Iran.
Different strategies. It all depends. Very fertile mind, different strategies. But they're very close to having a nuclear weapon. You have to understand, I didn't want much. All I wanted is you can never have a nuclear weapon. I didn't want much. I wanted Iran to be very successful.
He says it's not much. That's a lot, dude. That's kind of a lot for them. That's a big deal to them.
I just don't want them to have a nuclear weapon.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's the real threat. The real threat isn't global warming. The real threat is nuclear warming.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? That's the real warming. Because, I'm the one that rebuilt our military. I rebuilt the whole military.
Yeah. I remember all this part. Okay. So that's fine. Let's go back. I want to see if there's any other stuff because I don't know who that person is. Oh, I think this might be along the lines of some of the other stuff I was seeing. Elon Musk has secret meeting with Iran's ambassador to UN to discuss U.S. and Iran relations. The Logan Act prohibits private citizens from engaging in foreign policy and undercutting the U.S. government. Yeah, but again, it's more than him being a private citizen. He's an advisor to the president. So is that really the same from engaging in foreign policy and undercutting? Is he really undercutting the U.S. government if it's with the president-elect under his direction and advisement? I don't know. Musk is not a government official. If reports are true, this is a federal felony. Okay, bro. Okay, bro. Okay. Well, I don't think Matt Gaetz is going to be pressing charges, let me say. But okay. I mean, like CBS News is reporting it, but Financial Times says, or not Financial Times, whatever that lady was reading said no. Okay. I mean, here it is again, whatever this is. Elon Musk meeting with Iran's UN ambassador to diffuse tensions. Like if that's what he's doing, I don't have a problem with it, and I don't see why anyone else does. Someone's gonna have to explain this to me in a way that makes sense to dum-dums like me.
Joining us now, president and founder of the Eurasia Group and G0 Media, Ian Bremmer. The Trump campaign's not commenting on this either. Is there any reason to believe that they would tap Musk as an emissary to Iran? We don't have diplomatic relations, but he is a private citizen.
Yeah, it's certainly much more plausible if you want to figure out if there is room for engagement. The Iranians have been reaching out to the Europeans as well as America's Gulf allies pretty consistently over the last few weeks because they're in a horrible position. They don't have an effective way to strike back against Israel. They know that their energy resources, their nuclear.
And we know where the Trump administration's at on the whole Israel thing, right? They're our greatest allies. They must be protected at all costs, all these kinds of things. We covered this on the show a couple of times, but like, I don't think that this signals that the Trump admin is going to be partnering up with Iran. I'm more worried about them going to war with Iran on behalf of Israel. I want to make sure that doesn't happen. But if he's going there to de-escalate tensions or whatever, like that's a good thing. That's a good thing.
Their capabilities and their leadership potentially vulnerable to being targeted, and that President-elect Trump is really interested in facilitating that. So they've been reaching out. Easiest way to see what a deal might look like could be sending Elon Musk. I certainly suspect Trump was fully in the loop before he made that meeting. Let's put it that way.
What do you think of Elon Musk being the person to conduct, if he is, this shadow diplomacy?
He's going to be like, hey, bro, you see this meme? It's pretty funny, isn't it? Check it out, bro.
Well, I think he's more capable than Dennis Rodman was in the first term. So you remember that Dennis was doing that for Trump on North Korea.
Okay, but hang on, because later we got a meeting, right? So, I mean, hey, if the Shah of Iran, if the leader in Iran, I don't know what they call it, if they want to meet with Trump and that becomes like a big public thing again, just as successful if we get some kind of deal or some kind of treaty or truce with everybody. That would be even more successful, right? I think that's good.
He also has a lot more influence, both influence globally as well as maybe influence in favor of his own business interests. So this is unprecedented territory for U.S. diplomacy. You've also seen, of course, that Musk was on the phone with Zelensky together with Trump. Now, Musk, as a private citizen, has done more for Ukraine than any other private citizen in the United States, maybe in the world, given Starlink and the fact that Zelensky would have a hard time functioning militarily without it. But more recently, he's also promoted a lot of Kremlin talking points against Zelensky in trying to end the war.
What is this shit? What did he say that was a Russia talking point that, like, I got to find that because that's crazy. What are you talking about? Because, again, if the goal is to de-escalate tensions and stop the war, like, what the fuck, dude? Like, if that's, like, I know Russia wants to stop the war in a different way. They want to take Crimea or whatever the hell they're trying to do over there now. Like, I understand that, but come on, it just sounds ridiculous. I have to find Russian talking points floated by Elon Musk or whatever after this.
For me, the most interesting point going forward is whether or not Elon Musk is going to be on Trump's first phone call with Xi Jinping. Because, Katie, when I think about U.S.-China relations, I see a large number of Trump appointees that are among the most hawkish on China.
Yep.
I see Trump, who talks about tariffs, but also is inclined to cut deals with anybody if a good deal is there for the offing. And, Kissinger's dead. The only person in the world that has access to both Xi Jinping and the president-elect happens to be the richest man in the world. So we're going to be talking about this a lot going forward.
Yeah, he's got access. I mean, I don't, it doesn't make sense to me that he wouldn't be allowed, or him doing it is a bad thing, especially seeing what his intentions are. What does Elon Musk have to say about Russia? What Russian talking points have been repeated by Elon Musk? I want to know that answer. Let's have the AI do it again. Based on provided search results, these are the things. Peace conditions favorable to Russia. Musk shared a poll with peace conditions that were favorable to Russia, which Putin and other Russian leaders have repeatedly threatened in apparent terms. What? What are the peace terms favorable to Russia? That they get a piece of land or something? Blaming Ukraine for the war. Musk echoed another Kremlin talking point, blaming Ukrainian President Zelensky for forcing Putin to invade Ukraine. I think Russia's position on this is that NATO is surrounding them and all this kind of stuff, and they had no choice, downplaying Russian aggression. Musk's criticism of Biden administration is campaigning for Donald Trump's reelection campaign have been as attempts to downplay Russian aggression and undermine Western unity against Russia's actions in Ukraine. Okay, you're going to have to be more specific. Here we go. Let's go with this raw story one. Regularly talked with Vladimir Putin and faced implicit threats. Okay, he's regularly talked to Putin and he's faced threats. Okay. Tech billionaire, blah, blah, blah. Several current officials, Europe and Russia, told the Wall Street Journal that Musk had discussed personal topics, business, and geopolitical issues with Putin, at one point asking Musk to avoid activating Starlink satellites in providing internet service over Taiwan. Okay, but we just heard a moment ago that he's done more to help Ukraine than anybody else, right? The report revealed in 2022 the world's richest man was under public and private pressure from the Kremlin. Okay. 2022, Russia's space chief said in a post on Telegram that Musk would answer like an adult for supplying Starlink to Ukraine's Azov battalion, which Kremlin had signaled for the ultra-right ideology espoused by some members. Okay? Yeah, so Russia's trying to say they're a bunch of Nazis and you're helping them out. Yeah, that's propaganda. It's fine. The article continued later in 2022. Musk was having regular conversations with high-level Russians, according to a person familiar. At the time, there was pressure from the Kremlin on Musk's business and implicit threats against him. Okay, yeah, you're doing a bad thing. You're gonna pay for this, big boy. I don't understand. Musk began pushing more that same year. Musk began. Okay, this is it. So he met with them. He was helping Ukraine. Then Russia had a conversation with him, and now he's changing. That's what this is saying. That same year, Musk began pushing more Russian-aligned stances, including SpaceX was losing money by funding terminals in Ukraine. How is that a Russian-aligned stance? To point out that I'm not making any money on helping this war effort. I am losing money on doing it. If anything, that speaks to his commitment to it. That's not a Russian talking point or a Russian-aligned stance. What the fuck? As well as asking his followers on X to support peace plans that mirrored some aspects of the Kremlin's offer to Ukraine, the journal reported. Additionally, okay, so get on a poll and to support peace plans, and because some of those things mirror what the Kremlin wanted, oh my God. Additionally, Musk has become more critical of American and military aid to Ukraine. Yeah, because we shouldn't be involved. It's not our fucking fight. Okay. Report continues. After the Justice Department repeatedly sent Musk a warning letter after he began a lottery for voters in swing states. Okay. Then what does that have to do with anything? That's a completely separate issue. Okay. You want me to pay? I'm not paying. Next. Everything is subservient to the big guy. Fiona Hill on Trump. Oh, they're trying to make him the big guy now. Okay. Everything is subservient to the big guy. Fiona Hill on Trump and America's emerging oligarchy. The news for the past few weeks has included some developments that on their own could seem minor. Blah, blah, blah. Interview Political Magazine. Hill, like the other scholars, historians, thinking about Trump and Putin, masks full of oligarchs, They aren't driven by the people they represent or the companies that they represent, but rather by the peer group that they're in, which is an extraordinarily small group of people. Their interactions are all about them figuring out how to exercise power together. I mean, that's what you would do, right? If you wanted to affect changes, you would find some people that can help you affect that change, and then you guys put together a plan, a coalition, let's say, to make it happen. So these people have a way of saying things that make it sound terrible, and it really isn't. When it comes to Musk, he's promoting Trump's candidacy and transacting with Putin because it serves its own interests in amassing political and financial power. His loyalty is not necessarily to the United States. I haven't seen. So I guess the implication there is that he's more in it for himself or his own wealth and his own power, and that he really doesn't care about the United States. You'd have to explain more about that, because like I see things like, okay, the Starlink thing in Ukraine, him pointing out that he doesn't make money doing that doesn't necessarily point towards a loyalty towards Russia like they were implying in the last article. Rather, like he cared about it and it didn't matter if he was losing money. Similarly, look at the acquisition of X. He talks about how he's overpaid for it and how it's not making any money, but he also talks about the importance of free speech and having a place where we can have a digital town square of American opinion and thought and conversation that happens. And so, again, you're saying his loyalty is not necessarily to the United States, again, implying that it's more about his own stature or his own wealth or his own power. I mean, he definitely has a more influence and more power now that he has control of X, but he doesn't really seem to be wielding that in a way that's self-beneficial. If anything, he's putting himself out there as a target right now. Had he stuck with Tesla and SpaceX and Neuralink and all the other things he was doing without getting political, I don't think a lot of these other things would have really mattered too much, but he made the conscious decision to get involved politically. Is it for his own prestige and his own power? I'm sure that there's a part of it that's for that, but I don't think that it means that he has no loyalty towards the United States or no affinity towards the United States over other countries. You're making him sound like this big villain, but I'm going to need to see more. In the last couple of weeks, we learned Vladimir Putin has been in regular contact with. What do you think is going on here? President Trump always wants to stress the relationship he has with Putin. Okay. What is it that Putin wants from Trump? Putin has made his interest in the United States crystal clear. He talks about it all the time. He wants a weakening of the United States. He wants the United States out of international affairs. Okay, he probably does want the United States to be weaker so that he can do more what he wants without their interference. But having the United States out of international affairs is something that all Americans should want, because we don't need to be involved in everyone else's business. We just need to worry about ourselves and what we're doing, take care of our own shit, clean up our own room, and then we can worry about, what's going on. But we worry by criticizing and by being that beacon of freedom and just being better. Like, you don't have to force everyone else to be good. You can't force American liberty on the rest of the world or democracy or whatever. One could assume that if he's having conversations with Trump, what Putin is trying to do is push his preferences, his interests in Russian power, and engaging in his own power plays. Of course, Putin doesn't care about the American people, as he shouldn't. He doesn't care about President Trump, as he shouldn't. What he really cares about is Russia's own positions and his own interests. Like everybody else. I mean, okay. Putin wants to see the United States weak. In a private conversation, he will be pushing out messages that reinforce his preferences, advising, perhaps cajoling Trump to do or say certain things. Unfortunately, this messaging might be working. A lot of the statements that Trump and people around him, like J.D. Vance, have made about Ukraine sound exactly like the statements Putin has made on his preferences for how the war in Ukraine ends. I want to see more stuff about that. I'm not going to continue on with this because it's going on a little long, but I'd have to see more about that. But again, if like, I think what they're probably saying is like the ideal closure to the war for the people who hate Russia and love Ukraine and all that stuff. The ideal closure of the war for them might be as simple as Russia backs off and Ukraine keeps every piece of land, and that's okay. And then, some people might try to take that further after a scenario like that would happen and say now Russia has to be punished for its crimes against humanity and its crimes against Ukraine and all these kinds of things. They might try to pursue that further once they get what they want. It's like a never-ending thing on that side. So I think that's the ideal situation that they want, is that Ukraine keeps everything and Russia gets kicked out and maybe even punished. And I think what Trump and Elon and other people are saying is like, it's not going to happen that way. Russia is going to get something out of this, whether it's preventing Ukraine from being a part of NATO, whether it's giving Russia Crimea, or whatever the situation is. There's going to be some give and take. Both sides are going to have to lose a little bit, but the war will end at the end of the day, and that's more important. And I would agree with that stance I would agree with the latter stance over the former. And I think that's probably what they're hinting at here, is because Russia is probably coming in and saying, no, we want Crimea. We don't want them in NATO. We want X, Y, Z. And Trump and whoever else is saying, well, we'll give you X, but Y and Z we're not going to give you. And then the media steps in and says, oh, well, they're giving him X. And oh, isn't that terrible? That's exactly what Russia wants, not negating the fact that there's all these other things that they probably want that they're not going to get. But at the end of the day, the result is the same and the war ends. Neither side is truly happy, but it's the end. And I think that's more important. And if that's the case, if that's what's going on here, then all these people can get fucked. That's how I feel about it.